With regards to Revolution, you've said yourself, this has been one of the best builds they've done in a long, long time, and this card looks ridiculous.
Well,
It's time to play the game! Time to play the game! Ha ha ha!
let's go match by match and count for excited or not excited, and I try and drill into how good has this build been, right? Because there's a lot of amorphous talk of feeling, a lot of it's not show, don't tell. A lot of people really want this to be bigger and louder and better and more back than it actually is, right? So go through the Wikipedia and we'll go briefly match by match just to see how much work has actually been done and how big this really is, and if it's not just the Sting, awesome stuff, pretty much carrying the load here.
I'll go in ascending order.
Okay.
I don't know if that means main event first or not.
Yeah, I'll start at the bottom. All-Star Scramble. Jericho, Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, and 2 mystery entrants.
I understand why this has been booked, and I'm apprehensive to say I can't be arsed with it personally. It's impossible to screw up an action-heavy, urgent, one fall to a finish multi-man scramble. So it's a guarantee of a good match, ... However, that's the exact problem we had with the builds last year, so cross instead of a tick? How are we doing this? Not bothered.
FTR, BCC.
I've really enjoyed this. I think if you're going to have top names on the undercard with a stacked roster, it's a compromise you have to make because you've made a rod for your own back by expanding the roster so aggressively. Yes, I understand Hamflet's point that this was one match too far in a program that's been built by matches and matches and matches. But I think it's a clever marketing thing here. There are AEW fans who got bored of the melodrama, the sports entertainment direction. It's a catch-all, and there are people who just love in-ring stuff and don't care if there's promos or angles or whatever. For that portion of the audience, they've done a great job of building the tension between Cash Wheeler and John Moxley, spinning off from the finish of the Dax Harwood versus John Moxley match. There's a stated reason for this to actually exist. It's fleshing out a tag team division that could really start to, I hate the word, we use it ironically, cook deeper into 2024. I really like the action. I'm bang into this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In spite of the sort of comments before, I like that there's been a build nonetheless. Like this for the tag division is what you should be giving the women's division if you consider the amount of talent that's available. It's a match that, like, just because there's no belts in it right now, clearly both these teams want to win it in order to get back in contention. So it feels like there is stakes, because there should be stakes when wins and losses matter with rankings and stuff. So yeah.
TNT title, Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia.
I absolutely love it, and I've been wrong-footed, thinking it was another Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage match. What I love specifically about this is not just the revelation of poor goddamn Daniel Garcia growing up, Christian Cage pointing out what happened to him in his just delectably cruel fashion, but it's not completely out of nowhere, and it's not quite tell, don't show, oh, right, there's too many ex-WWE guys or whatever, or people are worried about the future. Let's pick the best 26-year-old in the company. They've built Garcia from the start of the Continental Classic, which they booked out well in advance, to build his audience investment, to build how over he's getting. He got a really good quarter relative to Collision standards, granted, in the trios match, which he was the centerpiece. And they've done an incredible job, really, of rehabbing him, building him back up, and he's been a great babyface. I described him as having that Bret Hart quality, where he's not this ostentatious, flamboyant catchphrase guy, but you just believe him and you really like him, and he fights for the right things, and he's just got this quality of a decent, good human being. And what a character contrast with him and that arsehole Christian Cage. I loved the build for this. You weren't in for the review, but did you catch up on it?
Yeah.
He's class,
really
isn't
smart,
he?
yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I love the fact that I can't work out what Adam Copeland's going to do, but even if he tries to help and fails,
he's going to wear a motorcycle helmet in that building.
Just as good for the everything else still to come. So yeah,
Ospreay Takeshita.
Again, I think the Pippen Jordan line was great. They've done the best possible way of articulating why the match has happened, even if the match happening is a bit flawed. It's certainly done more to establish the Callis family than literally anything since they formed. It's a vehicle to turn Will Ospreay babyface. Sometimes it is about match graphics on an undercard like this. Sometimes it is about match graphics. Like Pac Orange Cassidy was a match graphic, and they told their story really after that first match took place. If you want a dream match on your pay-per-view, this fits the billing and then some.
Yeah, can't wait.
Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown / Danielson shaking Eddie Kingston's hand.
I thought this has been absolutely fantastic. We've talked about it on this podcast, the idea that form is temporary, class is permanent, and Danielson is telling Kingston this, or potentially himself this, worrying about what's his legacy going to be? How good am I if I can't even win a title? And I'm meant to be this great. The subplots of this have been fantastic. Him going after the former Triple Crown winners who happen to be Eddie Kingston's heroes. They had the disrespect angle. When people talk about how Danielson's going to be the creative mind, people forget he was sort of put into that room twice in two different companies during those two different companies' worst ever periods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In AEW, there was talk that Danielson was, in the room in 2023. What did that do? This is evidence that this guy can book because this has been really, really great.
I love the build. It's a little bit of a self-own that the handshake feels more prestigious than the Continental Crown, but I think that's down to how much you love Eddie Kingston and understand how his brain works. I don't think that's necessarily the fault of the belts. It's the fact that you know the character of Eddie Kingston so well that even though he's now got this, he sold you on needing that handshake even more. This is the man that wanted to take the belts home to Ruthie. You can't take a handshake home to her. And yet you feel like he's got to get that vindication. Such a great story.
It's such a great device.
Economical as well. Like when so much of AEW is about excess.
Yeah.
They've just been like really neat and tidy.
They've been really neat and tidy with this. It's subtle. They've slow burned to the big angle on Collision last week. What's really especially clever about this is that it can sometimes take years to solidify someone as someone with staying power, someone who's on that level of like one of the all-time top stars in a promotion or an era or whatever. The way they've told the story is that Eddie Kingston has 2 wins to become that guy. He just has to beat Danielson twice to prove that it wasn't a fluke, and now he beat Danielson twice. And Danielson's done a lot of jobs as well.
Yeah.
There's a good bit of working behind the story that I've been really keen on as well.
Timeless Tony Storm, Deonna Purrazzo for the AEW Women's title.
A level of thought that has escaped virtually every single women's storyline ever. I'll let Hamflet talk more about this because I know it's his most anticipated match.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this. I genuinely look forward to seeing Deonna Purrazzo on a stage where she's, like, they've told you in wrestling that it's been this big before, but in Impact it isn't. That's the reality of it, whether it's because the building's small or in some cases in the pandemic, empty. Deonna Purrazzo was at her best in the big matches. That's how she developed this reputation beyond just good to being great in the most difficult of circumstances. So if anything, this is almost as much a reward as it is an opportunity for Purrazzo. I think she will lose, but it's all going to be about the match quality. It's all about how does Purrazzo in defeat keep herself in the conversation amongst all the other talent that this division suddenly has. Timing is unfortunate in reality because the shadow of Mercedes Moné looms over this one realistically, and that's a bit unfortunate because the story has earned a big night for both. I'm certain it's going to be Toni Storm's best match in the gimmick so far, and it's not just because of the talent of the two wrestlers, it's because of the creative, and it's because of the proof, if proof be need be, that if you just actually give these characters something meaningful, they will deliver, and they will deliver over and over again. It's like, this is as much showing AEW what it should have been doing all along as it is giving the women the platform they deserve. I don't worry about where this goes on the card. I don't worry about other matches potentially stealing the show from underneath it. I honestly cannot wait for this. And yeah, Toni Storm's, for as much as that character is that character, this is the unfussiest her character has felt in a wrestling context yet, and I love that for her because of all she's put in to make it work.
Orange Cassidy versus Roddy Strong for the international title.
No, this has been a bit of a fail for me. The match will be good. Again, that describes 98% of AEW pay-per-view matches. I was really looking forward to this because they set the stall out early and said this match is going to happen. And I kind of accepted that as an invitation to strap in. It's like, right, tell me the story. And it's been a diminished return of the Cassidy's bodies falling apart stuff. A lot of unnecessary international title matches with totally predictable results. The Valentine's Day week was an aberration. I mean, that was incredible with Matt Taven.
Yeah.
And even then, that's giving Gauntlet. and we've seen enough of that from AEW. So, I mean, the match will be class, but I've not really liked the story.
You're at 5-2 now, probably?
Yeah.
Positives and negatives. Samoa Joe, Hangman Page, Swerve, world title.
It's had its weird choices, and I don't know if to be generous, right? Maybe I am being a bit generous. It's really difficult to build a three-way match. It's really difficult to do that. I think they've had a good, ambitious stab at it. You gonna say something?
Well, I was going to say, having said that, I'm confident Swerve's going to win, but I wouldn't put my house on it.
It's one of the more. It's one of the more unpredictable AEW world title matches.
Yeah.
That's got in its favor. You could pick apart the logic and the decision making of the story and the characters respectively with this one. It's one of the better three-ways builds, but three-way builds by definition are usually quite awful. Score draw for me.
Yeah, again, I think this is pending Swerve winning. I do think this is an okay scenario.
Conditional goated.
Conditional goated.
Re-described in the office before realizing what's happened to the way we talk.
Yes.
So I was doing a very quick detour. I did an article, you can still read it on whatculture.com/WWE, entitled The Disturbing Truth Behind the WrestleMania Main Event, where I did a qualitative assessment. How many really good or worthy WrestleMania main events have there been? And it's like 50-50. One in every two WrestleMania main events was bad. I'm sorry, Michael Hamflett, Dr. Fed. He agreed with me because I was like, right, am I being too cynical or am I using confirmation bias to like engineer a point? So I was like, Hamflett, this match good, bad, whatever. We came to around about the same.
Yeah, weren't many
Pretty
disagreements.
much exactly the same. We were talking about WrestleMania 39, and it was like, well, that code, like obviously night one, feel good, great tag team main event, pretty perfect to be honest.
Yeah.
So that got taken the old win column. And then we were talking about Cody and Roman. It was like, I could have honestly watched them wrestle for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I was truly locked into a match like that, irrespective of promotion. I thought the way they paced it and worked it was just majestic. But then he had that finish. It wasn't just the result. I thought the finish was actively bad. And me and Hamflett came to the conclusion that if they pay off the story at and finish the story at WrestleMania 40, in retrospect, it will be double goated for nights 1 and night 2, but right now it's only conditional double goated. And we're like,
We sort of said it together and we're like, yeah, I think we're right. We're writers for a living. Yeah, we're
38-year-old British white podcasting writers.
conditional double goated. We were so pleased with ourselves.
And it's like,
Conditional double go is very good.
The room reeked of smugness. And we were like, yes, conditional double
yeah,
goated.
yeah, we aren't weird.
Finally, of course, Sting, Darby Allin versus Young Bucks for the tag titles.
I hate to be incredibly unprofessional. I have to race out of this studio
Yes.
to pick up my children from school. So I'll just say on this one, good riddance. Nah. Sting and Darby Allin win the belts. It's going to be super emotional. Lex Luger's going to be in the building. See you later.
See you later.
See you
Right.
later, guys. Ric Flair vibes aside, I was quite generous to it, but subjectively, that Darby Allin promo, but it was quite weird where, in hindsight, when he's looking at the Bucks with Sting's blood on their jackets, and he goes into this big exposition-laden soliloquy with a worked shoot bent about, the Cali clique. It's like, just dive at them. Trying to kill your dad, basically. They spilled your own blood. Other than that aside, it's been an incredibly entertaining and effective classic professional wrestling story where this arsehole heel, or arsehole heels in this instant, spill the blood of a vengeful badass babyface and realize, you've really made a mistake here. And you've got the emotional weight, you've got the detail work with the foreshadowing with the bats on the ceiling, wearing the white suits well in advance of the blood heavy juice territory angle, where it wasn't like they've turned up in white suits for that purpose. They've hidden the purpose of why they're wearing white suits in particular. Detail, emotional heft, how much this could save the Young Bucks' career as emphatically as it ends Sting's, right? Considering where the Young Bucks were in 2023, you could make the argument that if you consider, and I think this is unanimous, the top two stories in AEW history are Page Omega, Punk MJF. This is right below that stratosphere. So that's what, 6-3?
Yeah, I'd say so. arguably you could make a push to 7 too.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been genuinely the best build since Revolution 2022. I would argue that you need 2 more pay-per-view builds of this quality, of this caliber, for people to think, you know what, it's back. If I was the kind of punter who was in 2 minds about buying a ticket for one of these TV shows, nah, I'm going.
Yeah.
This promotion's back. Needs to consistently hit this level to regain that trust.